guys, and welcome back to today's video. Happy New Year. This is my first video of 2020 and I am filming quite a casual chatty video. I do want to film my beauty favourites, but that's going to be coming probably next week just because we've had like family over to stay quite a lot recently and I've had to basically give up my room for that time being. I don't really stay at home very much. I usually stay with Michael. I at least film at home and that just hasn't really been possible, and obviously I wanted to take some time off around Christmas. And to be honest, I feel like in January you're expected to kind of like snap into the new year, but I feel like you don't have that much time to reflect on the previous year in December because you're just so busy with like Christmas and New Year stuff that I kind of like to use January a little bit to like reflect and to kind of plan and not necessarily like go really hard with everything, especially with like exercise and eating well. It's not something I really want to talk about too much, but I just feel like January is such a crap month to start. I understand why people start in January, but the gyms are busy and it's cold and it's dark and I want to eat food, so I try to kind of like use January as a stepping stone into the new year rather than like a really strict new year. I don't know if this is making sense, but today I wanted to film a chatty video. I've got a few videos that I really want to share with you, and today I just wanted to talk about my 2019 favourite. I don't think this will be a long video because, to be honest, I apparently didn't have that many favourites last year, which is strange. I have written them all down on my phone, so I'm going to be looking down a little bit, and I will also be kind of talking about the new year going forward. I'm going to start with books. I'm just going to grab my favourite books first. Oh, one of my favourite books is missing, and that's a whole nother story because I know the last person that had it was my cousin Daniela, but she's like, hey, I don't know where it is. We think it's in Portugal, but I'll still talk about it. I'll kind of talk a little bit about my relationship with reading as a child, especially in my like early teens and like late childhood. So when I was about 10 to 13, I loved reading. I would read loads. I would go to WH Smith every time Jack and Wilson released a new book and we'd buy it on like release day. I loved reading. As I got older, I really felt a love with reading. I'm dyslexic and I think that kind of doesn't necessarily help that much. I struggle a little bit. I mean, I can read, obviously. It's something I have to kind of push myself to do a little bit because I would just rather do other stuff. For 2019, I definitely want to push myself into reading. I 100% use audiobooks quite a lot. I typically buy both the hard copy and the audiobook because I like to do about 50% of the book as an audiobook and then I will actually read the other 50%, which I know seems wasteful, but it really works for me. And I try to like buy secondhand books and stuff like that. I read a grand total of 10 books, which isn't amazing by most people's standards, but by my standards that is a real good achievement. I feel that actually like 10 is quite a good number for me. I'm quite happy with that. I think I like that challenge number because it pushes me to at least read and to hit the challenge. And other people are like, oh yeah, you should be reading because you enjoy it, you shouldn't kind of be like publicly telling everyone, which I 100% do because I have Goodreads. But for me that really works and I don't see any issue with it. Other people have loads of issues with people using audiobooks. Again, I will still say I read a book even if I listen to half of it on an audiobook. This year my challenge is 12 books. It was initially 10 again, but then my boyfriend set his to 12, so I then changed mine to 12 too. I've read one book so far. But anyway, I read some really great books. Honourable mentions would be Lily Allen's book and Michelle Obama's book. At the beginning of the year, I 100% like I was just reading non-fiction. I find non-fiction really easy to read. I don't know, I kind of relate to it a little bit more than I do fiction, so it was, I don't know, I liked non-fiction. Now I'm kind of moving away quite a lot from non-fiction, but I liked non-fiction at the beginning of the year. Both books amazing because I didn't read that much, so I guess I could quickly tell you what I read. I read An American Marriage, really great. This is so short that I feel like I probably shouldn't be saying that I read 10 books. I read like 9.5, but I also read Adam K. 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Really great book. I mean, was The Night Shift Before Christmas. Really great book, but just really quite short, but great. And then my two highlights would be the one that has gone missing, which is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I Loved this book. I read it within a day and a half in England, like I wasn't even on holiday, which for me is unheard of. It's really easy to read, it's not too long, and it was just beautiful. If I can be completely honest, I can't really remember what it was about, but I remember really enjoying it because it was quite a while back now that I read it. Since I shared it with my 2 cousins, one loved it, one said it was pretty good or like okay. I personally really loved it. I'd 100% recommend picking it up. And then my book number 2, which actually, so both books I'm picking were by Irish authors. Maybe it's a coincidence, but I want to explore that more this year. But my second book, and I might actually reread this. This is a massive book by my standards, like massive. And this is called The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. Mate, I can't recommend this enough. It's hefty, 100%. It's like over 700 pages. I cried endlessly throughout this. It's so incredibly, it's just so beautifully written and really clever, because so many things happen in this but you never really hear about it firsthand, and it's unlike any other book I've read. And I just loved it. It starts in 1945. It follows this guy's lifespan growing up in Ireland, and I just think it's a really beautiful book. I definitely want to read A Lad of the Sky, which is his other book. So yeah, just 100% recommend this. I will probably reread this, although honestly I can't even believe I read it the first time, because looking at it, it's just such a hefty book by my standards. Literally in terms of like how large it is, it's like the opposite of Normal People, but both were great, both were fab, and I loved them so much. I actually think I might reread both. The only issue with that is that I then feel like I'm spending time on these and not on like reading other books for this year's reading challenge. But anyway, films. I have mentioned this before, I don't really love films. I'm a bit indifferent to I'm not indifferent to films. I like films, but I just prefer series. This year I didn't really find many films that blew me away that were released last year. Sorry, I meant last year. The one film I would say blew me away was Greenbook. I think we went to see this in cinema. It must have been like one of two times we went to the cinema, maybe 3, not very many, and I just loved it. I would highly recommend it. It's also on, it's either on Netflix or Amazon, one or the other, and it's a really beautiful film. Again, it covers race in America. It's beautiful. I would definitely recommend that. And the films that weren't released this year, but which I watched this year and that I loved, were the Guernsey Literary and Potato Pill Pie Society. I really loved. I wasn't expecting to like it. It's also got the most ridiculous name, but really amazing. Highly recommend. Another one is Lion. I think that came out in 2017, and I can't explain how much I wept through this film. I have never in my entire life, I don't think, cried as much as I did with Lion. I watched this with 2 of my cousins and Michael. I was crying like, just, I don't, not even like a baby. Like, I was crying so much worse than how a baby cries. My cousin didn't know what to do and was literally like, it's okay, like it's just a film. And I was just like, ah! Honestly, it's just beautiful and heartbreaking. Oh, highly recommend. Michael cried, and which was actually quite funny because Michael doesn't cry that often, but he definitely cries of something sad, but he definitely doesn't cry around at other people's houses or when other people are around necessarily. But we were at my aunt's house, and honestly I don't know if they realised, but I 100% realised that he was crying, and pretty early on into the film. And then my last one, I actually am really sad that I didn't read the book first. I want to read the book now, but I know people always say that you should read a book before you watch the movie, but the movie has made me want to read the book, and that's Call Me By Your Name. That is on Netflix, and again, I just loved it. I wasn't expecting to love it. Again, it does, I don't know how much to like give away. It's about this like young gay boy living in, actually I don't think he's living there, but holidaying in Italy, and again, blew me away. I have actually watched this like 4 times this year. I never watch a film more than once out of choice, or very, very rarely. Maybe if I haven't seen it in a very long time, but it's very rare that I watch a film more than once out of choice, and I loved it so much that I 100% have. So highly recommend that. The one thing I'm really disappointed by this year is series. There was just nothing good. I didn't really discover anything new. My favourites were Afterlife on Netflix, which I'm not typically a massive Ricky Gervais fan, and actually my boyfriend is / was, but I'm not typically like a massive Ricky Gervais fan. Loved Afterlife just so much. I just thought it was beautiful. Again on Netflix. When They See Us is a documentary on Netflix. I just think it was really, really well done. And then the one thing I'm recommending loads to people, and I'm actually rewatching, and again I don't really rewatch series, is Mrs Maisel. It's on Amazon Prime. I think it's an Amazon Prime original. Season 3 just came out. It's a really easy watch. Seasons are relatively short. There's 3 seasons, and it's just happy, because as much as I want to watch like other stuff, often it's not like super happy, and I find that Mrs Maisel is typically quite a happy series to watch, and that's what I want. And usually I just rewatch Friends, and that's getting a bit boring, although I have heard that Friends is leaving Netflix this year, so I'm trying to like watch as much as I can before that leaves. But I must admit, I have quite been enjoying TV recently. I don't really watch TV by myself, but I really do watch TV with Mike in the evening, and we really just love like panel shows, which I know is a very British thing, but we like stuff like, stuff like, you know, like the Big Fat Quiz of the Year is great. Oh, we love Catchphrase. We love 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown. What else? That's kind of like our favourites. Oh, I quite like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire as well. But, and The Chase, and there's another one where you have to catch a ball. That's quite good. Anyway, we kind of liked that kind of evening crappy TV loads. But my number one is Gogglebox. I can't explain how much I think Gogglebox is underrated. I think Gogglebox has been out for a really, really long time, but I kind of only really got into Gogglebox maybe like 2-3 years ago, and when I first started watching it, Mike was like, absolutely not. We are not going to watch people watch TV, but we do watch people watch TV loads. It's on a Friday evening. We don't really typically go out on a Friday evening, and you know what, we catch up with it if we do out on a Friday evening. It's again relatively happy, but it depends on the week, because it's just great because it does cover current affairs. So for example, if there was, like now with the fires in Australia, I'm sure it will talk about that, and so it's great that it kind of raises awareness for stuff like that. It's a great way to find new programs to watch. Often we watch Gogglebox and then we're like, we need to also be watching this. I think I initially started watching Bodyguard because I saw that on Gogglebox, and I just love it. Like honestly, I think if I could be on any TV show, it'd be Gogglebox. It's just the best. I really, really, really thoroughly enjoy it. I didn't really know what else to put in this video, but I felt like it was a bit weird if I just came on here and spoke about TV and books. So I kind of wanted to put in a few other random categories. I was considering talking about clothes, but I just think it's too hard because it just depends on the season. And I didn't necessarily have like a favourite for the year, because what I'm wearing now isn't necessarily what I was wearing at the beginning of 2019 or in the height of summer. So it's pretty tricky, I think, to do that. But if you are interested, I guess I could do like monthly favourites. But then again, the issue with monthly favourites is, why do you want to know what I was wearing the season before? Because unlike makeup, where you can wear the makeup all year round, if I talk about my favourite dress at the end of summer, then you're not going to want to buy that going into autumn. So that's my issue with that. Confectionery, my favourite has been Joe and Seph Popcorn. Just so good. They do these little like chocolate cupped popcorn. I'm not saying they're healthy, I am saying they are delicious. And then my second favourite kind of treat is Candy Kitten sweets. Incredible. I haven't had them in a little while, but they are so good. Again, I know they're not new, but they taste delicious, and if you haven't tried them, try them. They're like a little bit expensive, especially compared to like Haribo's or something like that, but they're so good. YouTubers, again, it's quite difficult because what I'm watching now, I mean, I can't really remember who I was watching in January, but I'm gonna do my top 4 in no particular order. At the beginning of the year, I was watching Neggin religiously. It was actually out of hand. I will link her down below, but I'm sure most of you know her. And then I also really like Jen Atkin. Her videos are just incredible, really like them. And then more recently, the two people I've been watching more than anyone else, I would say, are Rhiannon. I can't actually remember what her channel is called. Is it her name? Rhiannon Ashley, love her vlogs. I watch every single one. Oh, one other person that I just remembered is Mr Beast, which I know like everyone knows about Mr Beast, but people are like surprised to find out that I like his videos, but I just love them. Again, I just think they're very happy, positive videos. Lastly, someone else I've been watching loads recently is Middle-Aged Minx. She is, I'm not sure if her name's Joe Wood or Joe Good, because the other one, either Joe Wood or Joe Good, the one that she is in, is I think like Mick Jagger's ex-wife or something like that, so I get their names confused. But love her. She's like into her 60s and just such a good vlogger. I personally really love like daily and weekly vlogs, so she's just amazing. Would highly recommend her. And then I have just loved podcasts generally this year. My favourites are The High Low. I talk about The High Low all the bloody time. I just love it. I love Dolly Alderton, and the podcast doesn't disappoint. Table Manners by Jessie Ware and her mum, really, really great. Sometimes the celebrities I don't know end up being the best podcast, so I'd highly recommend checking that out. And then one that I have found more recently, but I've really been enjoying listening to with Mike, which is why I included this, is Shags, Married, Annoyed. Honestly, it is ridiculous. I recently recommended it to my aunt and I was like, by the way, it's outrageously rude sometimes, and not even just rude, like they just talk about poo a lot, which isn't typically my sort of humour, but I really enjoy it and it's light-hearted. And sometimes I'm like, well, I just wasted an hour of my life listening to something extremely pointless, but you know what, it was funny and I laughed for that hour and it's great, so I'd highly recommend that. And then my final favourite has been Polaroids. Now some of these Polaroids are from last year. All the ones that are in this album, which I got for Christmas, are all from last year or even like previous to that. But this year I have really, really loved Polaroids more than ever. Honestly, can't recommend them enough. Now what I am going to say is Polaroids are expensive, and they're an expensive favourite to have and an expensive thing to enjoy. Polaroid cameras themselves aren't cheap. You can often get them on eBay or sometimes even charity shops for a little bit cheaper, but still you're probably looking at like the £60 plus mark. I have a Instax Square S6, I believe. I really, really love it. If I'm honest, I'm pretty happy I changed from the minis, which are a great starter Polaroid camera, to the squares. They're just a little bit more amazing, if I'm completely honest. This year I've tried not to be too precious with them, which is hard because I think on average you pay almost £1 per photo, sometimes a little bit cheaper, but honestly it's very rare to find film on offer. I mean, I'm not sure I've ever found it on offer, and I think it's £15 for 20, which makes it 75p per film. Sometimes they go wrong. So for example, I recently organised these and then I showed them to my boyfriend. I was like, babe, look at this year's photos, but be careful you don't just unorganise them. And he like squeezed them too tight and they slipped, and they like, oh, they were completely unorganised. But the other thing is that sometimes the photo you want doesn't come out as well as you want. I actually don't hate this photo, but for example, I was on a wobbly boat and I basically just caught the tiniest top of this cliff edge, which was what I wanted to photograph. Oh, and this one's a group photo, which is just completely blurry. So just bear in mind that they don't always come out that well, so that makes it even more expensive. But it's definitely a learning process. If you guys are interested, I can do a whole video on Polaroids, because I've learnt loads this year, because at one stage I was ending up with these blurry photos, but I've just loved them. It's unlike taking photos on any other camera, because you don't have the option to pick which one you want, which I think is great, because even if you get like a Polaroid printer, you still get to pick which one you want, and it makes it slightly like you're less precious with it if you get to pick what you want. You'll just take like 40 and then pick one, which is just what we always do. So I really like the kind of like one take wonder. It's instant. Honestly, whenever I have a Polaroid camera, everyone's like, wow. Loads of my family have, actually not these, but when I had the mini camera, loads of people had them on the back of their phone. I think these are a little bit too big, the square ones, on the back of their phones. Recently have been trying to give them to people if they want them, but sometimes people are like, oh, I didn't look nice in that one, can I have another one? And I'm like, no, because this is costing me quite a lot. I do try to give them to people because I think people really like them, but I also like to keep them for myself, and I've been trying not to be too precious with them though. So I have been taking pictures of like silly things. For example, I took this one which had my makeup in it, which I actually think I used for an Insta stories, and I just think it's a cool photo to have. It's kind of like a nice memory of what I was wearing, what makeup I was wearing that year on holiday. I do really want a photo album for these, but I haven't found one I want. Like this picture is just of strawberries and champagne, but it was a nice day and I want to keep that memory. And again, I just think a Polaroid's a nice way to do it. What else do I have to say about Polaroids? I think I've been talking about Polaroids for 5 minutes now. I end up only using them on specific days, so typically all of these are either holiday pictures or Christmas. Yeah, literally I think every single one is either a holiday picture or Christmas. But took it to New York, took loads of beautiful photos, took it to the Algarve, got lots of beautiful photos there, have some funny photos, some like more serious photos. I have some photos that Mike took of me. I have group photos. Honestly, I don't think Polaroids are great for group photos, but I do have some. And I love Polaroids loads, if you can't tell. It's something I definitely want to take more of this year, but I do think that the mini ones are a good way to start. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Do let me know, like, what did I miss from last year? Like, what was your favourite book? What was your favourite film? What was your favourite series? Because I will then watch them or read them this year. And let me know if any of your 2019 favourites were the same as mine as well. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.